Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Buncee Coffee Talk. I'm Rochelle Dene-Poth, and I'm excited to have another episode here today with one of our Buncee ambassadors who does amazing things, and I'm so happy to be connected with her. So I'd like to welcome Laurie to the Coffee Talk.
Hello, nice to be here.
It's nice to have you here, and thank you. I know you are so busy, and there's so many things going on, so definitely appreciate you taking the time. But looking forward to all that you have to share, because that's one thing that I admire about you is like you can put a question out there on Twitter or in our different groups, and you're always right there with like examples and so willing to share. And I love that. It's just awesome to know you and to be connected with you and to see like such a supportive community. So for people that don't necessarily know you, could you tell us a little bit about what you do, where you're from, and your background in education?
Sure. I'm Laurie. I'm the assistant coordinator for model schools at a Buncee's up in upstate New York. We service 5 counties, 31 area districts, about 40,000 students, if you want to look at it that way. Prior to this role, this is my second year in that role. Prior to that, I was an integration specialist for a small district called Schuylerville. And before that, I was a 6th grade English teacher. So I've done various different things, but when I was in the classroom teaching 6th grade English, we piloted iPads, and I just fell in love with technology and what it was doing with my students. I saw growth in ways I hadn't ever expected, and I saw students that tended to be the quiet ones in the room all of a sudden blossoming and trying new things, and it just seemed to reach kids in a very different way than I'd ever seen before. So I kind of set myself on this path of learn everything I can. So I started doing, nightly webinars, and I signed up for every thing I could find online to learn anything I could about technology. I got on Twitter. I was actually at a conference about literature, and I sat in on something on what is Twitter, and I had no idea what it was. And by the end of the session, I had logged in, I had thrown some questions up, and it just kind of changed everything for me. So I've been doing the technology now. This is my 4th year, if you want to look at it that way, or just started my 4th year of doing just the technology part of education. But it's certainly been a journey to get here, which has been kind of fun.
And it's funny for me when I hear about people when they start with Twitter, because I was so I didn't want to use Twitter. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue about how much you could learn and how, the power of being connected. And so I think I just celebrated my Twitter, like it shows you how long you've been on or something like that. And I see people doing that. And it's been amazing to connect, and it can be overwhelming, but it takes just being at a conference or having somebody kind of like tag you in a tweet, or I don't know, just like raise your curiosity about it, and to take that first kind of step into it. But then I'm sure you can probably agree is like when you look back at all of the different changes and experiences and people you've met since that time that have happened through Twitter, it's like if you take all of that away, like it's always curious to me to think like, I wonder what I would be doing. Like when I know, like who would my friends be, right? Because you have so many friends that actually do in fact exist. But the nice thing too is like being a teacher and making those transitions, connecting with other educators from around the world to share, like you have that experience where you've been in the classroom and now you're working with teachers in a different role. And I would say, do you miss working with students? But you still are.
Still do, yeah. Just not, I miss the relationships you build with students because you're not with them every day. Or I have this great idea, like I get so super excited about it, then I gotta message every one of the teachers that I have like in my email addresses and start being like, who wants to do this with me? Please, let me in, kind of thing. So sometimes I miss that part where, you have that idea and you just want to go with it. But I also have so many new experiences that I never would have gotten if I hadn't shifted out of the classroom into this role. Now I can say confidently, I can push into any grade level and do something with that group of kids. I have a better understanding of their level of abilities. I can tell you, I taught 6th grade, love 6th grade, but 2nd grade, there's something special about kids at 2nd grade. They have no fear of failure, which is fabulous. And they're willing to try anything, and they'll try it over and over and over again, and they never give up. And it's just such a fun group to be with. So if I ever went back in the classroom, I think I would love to try 2nd grade out, but because I just love them so much. But I've done things at all different grade levels with all these different activities. And you're right. It changes your world. And, going back to Twitter, the weirdest thing for me was the first time I went to a conference again after being on Twitter, and you start to see people that you knew virtually, and all of a sudden you're meeting up with them. Like I did that with Mike Drezick. I think you've had him on, right, for Coffee Talk. He reached out to me on Twitter and said, "Hey, I'm curious about this one tech tool." And he's like, "Can we chat?" And we happened to be going to the same conference. So we met up, we had a cup of coffee, and we just talked about that app. And we've stayed connected since then. We've done some things together. We've now presented together. And it really just shifts how you think about education. It just, you all of a sudden you have this community, these people that are there to help you out. And it's been a really cool experience.
Yeah, that is, I remember the first time that I went to ISTE, and that was when it was in Philly the first time. So that was like 2015. And one of the first Twitter chats I had followed into wasn't even in my own state. It was called Wiley Ed Chat. And there was a group of people there who I'm still, very good friends with now, but I had no clue. I'm like, I'm from Pennsylvania. And then it evolved into like Tennessee Ed Chat. And I didn't know, but
Right.
that first time when you make that connection with them, and it's like, you feel like you've known them forever, even if you haven't met, or even just using tools like, webinars and things where you actually get to see the people and interact with them. Is it the same as being in the same physical space and sitting down and having that coffee? No, not totally, but it's still a way to learn and grow and connect. And one other thing that I was thinking about when you were talking, and it kind of clicked, like I've seen a lot of the work that you've done and the Buncees you've created and all of these great ideas that you really do have ideas that can be used by anybody. It's not just elementary, high school, or whatever your role is in education. But now that I think about some of the ones that I've seen you create, I totally can see your love for education and for students and doing what's best for them, because they're amazing. And so speaking of those, I hope that you can share some of those. It wasn't a spoiler, but now that I think about them, like I see how when you create those, you're thinking about every single, like those students and their needs and interests. And so that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's and I'll share my screen and I'll show you some different ones that I've done, and we can kind of go through my Buncees. It really is a lot of what I've created comes from an idea. So I'll meet with a group of teachers and they'll be like, "Gee, we're doing something on like road trips," and I'm like, "I have an idea," and then we create something, and I'll be like, "Let me come on in, and I'll model it for you, or you can do it however you want to do it, and I'll coach you through it." And then it becomes, oh, this idea becomes the next idea, or the kids really like that, so let's come in and do that. So it becomes one of these like constantly evolving lessons. So I'll start with something small and it becomes like 6 different ideas that come from it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So let me share my screen here. And yeah, this one, we'll do that. And then we'll make that go away so I can see. All right, so you can see my screen now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so here is my Buncees. I went through recently, actually, I was watching one of your coffee talks. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Dom maybe. And he had everything in folders and I was like, I need to do that. So I recently went through and I created folders for everything, and it makes my life so much better. I've always been the one to use the search because I kind of remember what I named things. But I just love the folder idea. So I think that's great that Buncee allows you to kind of organize it. So now like I have all these folders, which makes my life so much easier to find things. And I've been leaving the things that I've created recently up, until I'm ready to file it away, that I'm not, that I'm done with it. For example, I'm doing a Buncee webinar later tonight. So I have that presentation up. I've been doing daily office hours, and I saw Mike had one on Twitter, so I created one just like it that just says, "Be right back." So that way, if I'm not on screen and they wonder where I am, they can go and see that, yeah, I'll be right back. I'm here. So I'll show you a couple of ones that are kind of like big right now, things that I'm working on right now. The biggest one is the parent newsletters. Since we've come home, in my districts, all 31 of them, agreed together to be out since last Friday. So we're a week in until April 20th. So that's kind of the understanding right now is we'll come back to school around the 20th of April. But one of the things I was noticing on some of the Facebook groups and even on Twitter was that parents were looking for things to do, especially during that transition period where teachers were still kind of organizing or just sent some packets home, and they wanted some ideas on what to do with their students. So I started creating these newsletters, and I have about 14 of them here. So I'll show you, I think this is the first one I did, or one of the ones I did, just what one kind of looks like. if I open it up here. And the idea was to keep it simple, so it wasn't something that that would be overwhelming for parents. I didn't want it to be, here's another resource, now I got to learn 5 different tools. I wanted it to be simple things that they can kind of do. So each of the newsletters has 4 ideas. Some of them are low tech, some of them are no tech, some of them are a little bit harder, but it's just a way to kind of engage with your child while you're home. So all of the links and where I find all these different things are really from Facebook and Twitter, or things that I've used in the classroom before. So for example, on this one of the math puzzles, if I open this one up, it brings me to a resource, Mathsphere, where they just print these out and they can do these activities with their kids. So it's very low tech. It's just a printable for them versus the STEM ideas, again, is a printable. Oh, I missed the link there. Let me grab that. This one is a printable, but then they try the different things. And any of these activities like learning to type or using Legos, or maybe they do a virtual reality field trip to visit a farm or something like that, or different activities that parents can kind of print out and try with their kids. And then, you know, I always try to throw in a creation one. So this one is writing a story using Buncee. This one has some cards that were made by 3D Bear. So 3D Bear put together these challenge cards that are fabulous for storytelling. Each of the cards, you can print them out and then you choose cards randomly and then you write a story based on the cards that are there. One of the other ones that I really thought was kind of fun was drawing with Mo Willems. Now I gotta find it here, here he is. All right, so Mo Willems every day at 1 o'clock Eastern time is doing this great lunch doodle activity. So I put this in as one of the activities for students to do. Easy for parents to kind of log in. All they'll do is go to their website, watch the video of the day, and then there's some great downloadables for you to do to continue on and to learn how to draw. And he talks a little bit about his writing process and that sort of thing. So each of the parent newsletters are built around the idea of keeping it simple, keeping it fun, keeping it engaging, but it's still educational. So even today's one that I've added today, just to show you one more. This one, I found some great resources through the Smithsonian. So there's some STEM games. There's a contest where you invent something to help provide access to healthy foods for everyone. Some game-based lessons through Everfi, and then some at-home ideas just from the Buncee lab. So as they're going through, they should be pretty simple for parents to kind of follow along. So that was the idea there. And any of these could be used in the classroom as well. It's just these are ones that I was sending home for parents. So if I close out some of these, because now I got a lot open here, and I go over to another board here. Another thing that we were talking about in some of our chats and on Facebook too, where a lot of people are celebrating birthdays right now that are not able to have their parties. For example, I was on a call with a parent or with a teacher, and their son's birthday is the end of the month, and he was saying that he was going to have a trampoline party with just mom, and they were going to camp out on the trampoline. So I thought it would be fun to put together some birthday messages that you can send to anyone. They're generic enough that they don't have people's names on them, and then their idea is once their birthday's done, they can create a birthday message to send on to others. So we have this Buncee board of just these different birthday ones. If I pull up one that I made here, just so you can see an example of one. You know, it says, well, you may not be able to have a huge in-person party. You can have a humongous one online. The whole world wants to celebrate you. And then, you know, we hope you made your day more special. So just a little message to kind of cheer them on. So just a little fun activity. If I go into my dashboard, I'll show you some lessons that I've done too. Those are some of the more recent things, but let me show you some of the lesson ideas. So in here, I have different things that I've done with students. One fun activity we did, and I know the Iditarod just ended, but the Iditarod was one that we did with students, and the students created slides like this one. And then I don't have the student one anymore, but she created one that looked just like this. And then she went on to talk about her musher, and she had a little video of her musher. But I just kept her first slide because I thought it was so cool the way she had the snow going on the screen there. It was a fun one that we did. I've used Buncee also to make templates even for other subjects, so or for other resources. So if you use the activities in Seesaw, for example, I'll make a base one like this, and then I'll label the parts when I drop it into Seesaw for an activity. I have a mystery Skype one that I thought was fun. Let me grab that one. So this one we did with 3rd grade, and we wanted to give students an idea as far as how to organize what a mystery Skype was. It was their very first one. So we played a little Go Noodle mystery Skype song. We went over some of the rules on what they should do, the things they're not supposed to do. And then we went through the different jobs that they had. So each of the jobs was kind of outlined for them. Then they organized what jobs they wanted. But this helped organize the thoughts for them so that they can actually go through and be prepared for the mystery Skype. And then we gave them some information that they had done some research on, so they knew about their state to be able to answer any questions that they had. We talked about types of questions that they might have. And then we played the Skype song again because they liked it. So we made sure and kept that in there as well. Some other activities we've done, I think I mentioned the map one. This was a My Maps activity we did with students. We did this one with 5th grade. And the students were creating their own adventure of where they would go if they could go anywhere in the world. We also did a New York one where we took the Spheros, or the States one where we took the Spheros and brought them across the country as well as part of it, a little coding mixed in. But here they just did some exploration using Google Earth, and they decided their top 3 choices. And then they started a My Map, and then they had to create their own country project, their own information about learning the cultures, about the different places they wanted to visit. So there's a few. Let me keep going, Rochelle.
Yeah, you can, what I love seeing, well, going back to, well, let me put my camera back on, that would help too. It's nice when you can actually talk to somebody. The one thing, especially now with the remote learning, is people are looking for, ideas to get started with kind of quickly that can be used at all different levels. And one of the things I love about all the things that you've been showing is that you can adapt those to whatever content area, the grade level, but especially when it comes to things like how you had the newsletters, and there's like the 4 or 5 different activities with just like a specific task or something for them to read with a link to some other site. And I was talking to some educators earlier today because I was doing another webinar to help some teachers, get ready with it. But just saying, having that connection with people too, like we were talking about when you and I started, is being able to use Buncee. So now if you want to give students an activity to do, or if you're doing professional development, to have, one space where you can put the links, you can record your own video of you talking and giving the instructions or typing them, and then you have Immersive Reader. And so I'm sure that you're seeing like all of these things that are inside of Buncee really do make it such a powerful experience for students and teachers.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those, Buncee's one of those tools that's accessible to anyone. It's very image-based, which really helps out. And like you said, you can add your own voice. The Immersive Reader was a game changer. It's the first thing I show whenever I do any workshops on Buncee. I show the Immersive Reader right from the get-go because I think it's so incredible and how accessible it makes it. And I think that the tools are so kid friendly. The first time I bring Buncee into a classroom, I always have them create an all about me slide just so they can explore anything that they like. And I always tell them, put in the word that you want, whether it be an animal or, maybe they like a certain kind of dance or a sport or whatever. And they're always excited when they see, they love wolves and there's 5 different wolf ones they can pick from, or they were really into Fortnite, last year, or maybe they still are, but they were really into the dances and the Fortnite dances, those kind of things are all there. I had reached out to Buncee, oh gosh, it's gotta be over a year ago, maybe 2 years now, because students were asking for bottle flips and there wasn't one. So I reached out, they're like, we got it. By the end of the day, they put in a bottle flip one. So they're very responsive for things that kids are looking for. When we were doing the Iditarod one, I was so excited that they already had a musher in there. And then all the different choices for snow was so fun for the kids. They had massive snowstorms happening on their slides, which was great. I did one project with my 2nd graders. I pushed in and they were doing their writing workshop, and the teacher wanted them to create something instead of just writing it on paper. She wanted them to create something a little bit bigger. So we were able to create this one. This was one of the students created this one, and this is incredible that it was done by a second grader. So I wanted to show this one, but she did this all by herself. The only thing I had to show her was we showed her how to use Buncee in like 10 minutes, where she created her own All About Me first before she built this one. So this was completely on her own in second grade. So she put all of the things she had done with their teacher already for Writer's Workshop, all the information she just had to type it in. And we did this in a 30-minute, 40-minute class period time. So there's all her wolves on there. And then you can see she couldn't find one she liked for a den, so she created her own using the drawing tools, which I thought was great. Didn't even ask for help on it. She just figured it out on her own how to do it, because I don't usually show the draw tools. I forget that that's such a cool thing in there. She did the same with building where they would sleep. And then I thought this was great. She put all three together, so they were showing like the alpha and the beta wolves. And then she had all the ranks there. And then again, she wanted to show her food chain, so she was able to draw her lines to create her food chain. So I thought this was really incredible that a second grader can do something like this so quick without a lot of direction. So she was able to build this and do this all on her own. So even had her own glossary on the end of it. So I thought that was great.
And that's second grade, which is like, wow. And they learn so quickly, but I think the lesson, I mean, we kind of, it's hard as teachers. We want to have all the answers, and we feel like we have to know how to do everything. And there is so much technology, and I can't remember who the person was that said this, but essentially it was, we just need to know enough, and then let the kids go and create and take it in however many different ways they want to take it. And seeing like second graders, giving them the instruction, like you said, like 10 minutes or so, but then letting them explore and find what interests them. And if they want to draw, because I have students that say, well, I don't want to do anything, I just want to draw. And I said, well, you can, because you can draw in Buncee. And I was talking with an art teacher today earlier, and ideas tend to come to me as I'm, showing Buncee. I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't think about this. But for a teacher who's teaching art that wants students to draw, they could still use Buncee. She could share whatever, record a video, the YouTube, anything that she wants as far as text and information, but then having students create with, and if they do need to draw something, they can use that draw feature and still do the drawing, which I was like, oh, wow, that's actually kind of cool that you could do that. So yeah, great to see how she decided, well, I'm just going to make my own thing.
Right. I'll just build it the way I want it, and
right.
Kids like that. They're so creative. They're so great about taking chances, and they all think of themselves as beautiful artists. And I love that. You never want to crush that in a kid, right? You always want to make sure that they realize they can all do it. They're absolutely artistic and creative in every way.
Absolutely.
So yep.
Yeah, I had a talk with Don Stehr about how he would do his, every morning he would create one, and saying that he never really thought he was creative. And I said, well, that was my problem too. And even in art class in high school, I was told that I wasn't really very good at art. And I knew that. And I didn't take any risks with drawing or doing anything for years, and actually started to do some sketchnoting, because I looked at Sylvia Duckworth's book, and I took the chance with my own students. And I had some of them too that were like, oh, I'm not really good at drawing. And I'm like, we're in this together, right. But just having different tools and options for them to explore. And this, I have found that even those students who don't want to do the technology or don't feel like they're creative or whatever, all can do something and create something they walk away with and they feel they're proud of. And I'm proud of it too, obviously.
Yeah, I had a similar experience in third grade. I drew a picture for my art teacher, and I was so proud of it. And I remember bringing it up to her desk, and she told me that that I was terrible at drawing, and ripped it in half and threw it in the garbage. And from that point on, I was like, I'm not good at art. But I always was creative. Yeah, but I never thought I was, because I couldn't draw, And I remember taking those classes in like high school and even in college, like what color's your parachute, or, all those job things that saying what job you should be doing. And all of them always said I should be doing creative jobs. And I kept saying, but I'm not good at art. But Buncee kind of changed that for me, because I can be creative without having to be good at art. I don't have to use the draw tools, which is probably why I forget to show them, because I don't use them. But you can be creative, and you can be artistic, and you can look at things in different ways and design. And just as I'm scrolling, every Buncee is completely different than the one before, and you can do some really cool things with them. And it could be something simple, this is a really basic one. I had my second graders, when I used to push in their class, we did a lot with robotics with this one group. So they used to call me the robot lady. And I'd go in and they'd ask me all these questions. So finally I did this as a project with them. I created this simple Buncee. I took a photo of me at my desk and I a basic background, asked a question, very basic. And their job was to create a list of questions they wanted to ask their robot. They had to figure it out for themselves. So instead of them asking me, does the robot do this or can it do that? They had to play around with the robot and figure it out. And then they had to put that information on their Post-it. So they each got a copy of this and they were able to answer their own questions. It was so much better than me trying to answer, 25 kids different questions of, can the robot talk, or can it move this way, or how do I do this? Figure it out and then teach everybody else. So, your creation doesn't have to be something extravagant. It could be something as simple as, here's the directions, here's a couple of Post-its, and off you go.
Right. I'm so glad that you clicked on that one, because I saw the robot in your picture. I was like, I'm very curious about what that one is about. But that's a great idea to be able to do that and share that with them and get them to kind of interact with it and put them down. Yeah. I like that.
And I threw my face on, now I probably put like my little like emoji or whatever, but back then it was just easier to just say, here we go.
I think it's good that way. I don't think you should change it.
Yeah. And, you can do all sorts of things with, and I think we've talked about this before, but you can use Buncee for any grade level, any age level. It really is engaging for everyone. I taught a class at a local college here on, using technology with literacy. And I gave them an assignment one time to just create something that they can use as an image for whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was silent in the room. Everyone was on Buncee and just creating. And they were just like, this is so great. It was like they had found their Zen, they were just like, this is where I want to be. I want to explore. I want to play. And they created some amazing things. I wish I'd kept it. I should have kept those. But they were all on their own Buncee accounts. I didn't ask them to give it to me, but they were really incredible. So you can really use it for anything. This is just, like I said, I did a lot with robotics. And I like, because I push into classrooms more than I don't have my own set of kids. A lot of times I'll create these Buncees to do as my presentation when I come in, just to kind of preset the students. And this was an example of one where we did the Mayflower challenge. So they had to build with, whatever they had in the classroom. So styrofoam, pipe cleaners, construction paper, whatever they had, but they were using the Stehr robot, and they had to propel their, the robot to take their Mayflower boats, because we were talking about the Mayflower and the Pilgrims from England to the New World. And then when they were done, they had to create a story about it. So that the last slide was story time. Tell the story of your boat, the passengers, and your robot, and just be creative. And then off they went to create their own Buncees. So, sometimes they don't have to be these extravagant things. It's just something simple to get them going. And they're like, oh, wait, there was a pilgrim hat. There was a boat. Oh, look, the birds. And they can kind of use those ideas, and off they go to create their own.
Yeah. And it makes for such, more meaningful learning, especially whenever they're looking for something specific, or just as they're looking for things, seeing other objects and things to add in. I know that even today, I noticed some more assets added into, the library. And I'm like, wait, where did that come from? Because you kind of get used to where things are, and then they start to shift, and you're like, where did that go? But you always find, there's so many interesting things out there to create with, or you lose track of time because you start to create one thing and then you find all these other backgrounds and you want to try. So.
Right. Yeah. And that's been the fun thing with doing the parent newsletters is I've been keeping them pretty basic for, where'd the board go? Do I have it up still? I might've closed out. Let me grab it again. On the parent newsletters, I just make a copy of the last one I did and then change the background and the four, and then I changed all the words and stuff, but I've been keeping the same outline, but I'm having so much fun exploring different backgrounds to use because, sometimes having a color is great, but other times it's just easier to have a plain white background. But I always want a little flair somewhere, like this one, the one we talked about with Willems. I just having the bar on the top and the bottom was enough. But, other times I'm like, oh, this one has a lot of stuff about space. So a darker background, but make sure you can still see everything that's going on with the words you have on there. So you can kind of play around with it.
Yeah, those, the space ones are some of my favorite backgrounds and characters. I don't know why, but those and the koala bears are like
It's
Definitely
so
some of my
cute,
favorites.
right? I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, because I like tech, so I love all the STEM ones. They have a lot of like moving parts and motors and things that I just think are so great. And then the science ones with the dripping. I think I have it on this one. This one had the dripping liquids. I thought
Oh
that was
yeah.
so fun.
Yeah, it is just all of your ideas. They're just awesome. And especially for this time now with, I mean, looking at tools that we can use as educators, but also having, I mean, it's hard for parents whenever, if there's all kinds of tools being used and just making that transition, but having something where like kids are creating with Buncee for their classes, but there's also things they can do at home with families to create and all these different ideas. I think that's just, I mean, I try to share that, but I'm looking at all of your ideas and I'm like, wow, that is just amazing. There's so many, there's enough there for like, I don't even know how many days, tons of ideas, which
Yeah.
is awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for sharing all of this.
Sure.
And last question that I'll ask you is if somebody was, you know, kind of nervous about getting started or wasn't really sure, you know, okay, so now I'm going to use Buncee, like, where do I begin? Like, what would you suggest like a first step might be?
I usually, and I can take you there now, the Ideas Lab is always where I send people when they're starting to just figure out what am I going to use this for? How would I use it? Teachers always ask for specific things to their topic, you know. So I always say, you know, put it in the search. What are you studying right now? And they might say something really, you know, like if I might put in Egypt, if I could spell it. There we go. And it says nothing, but that, you know, there may not be something there, but if I go down and I go into history, all of a sudden there might be an idea where I can create one with here it is, social studies right there, where maybe I don't have Egypt, but all of a sudden I'll see something in social studies going, oh wait, I could do a learn about Egypt and create my own. So, you know, I kind of always send them here first to say, you know, here's some ideas on how people are already using them, but you can always change it to be what makes sense for what you're doing. And I guarantee that I know that there's a pyramid and a sphinx and all the other things you're going to want and hieroglyphics and all that is already out there in Buncee for you to use. I always say, whatever you do in the classroom, there's a Buncee for it, you know.
That is definitely true.
Yes.
No, that's great advice. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you with any questions, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, probably on Twitter because I tend to live there. So at Smile Learning is my Twitter handle. I used to be Gian Smile, but nobody can say my last name. So I switched it to Smile Learning, make it easy. That's the easiest way to probably reach out to me. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well,
Please do.
thank you. Yeah. Thanks for taking time for the coffee talk today and for sharing all of this and
Stop sharing
appreciate it.
my
Yeah. And we will, you know, stay connected in Twitter and in Buncee land. And for everybody watching, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out and connect with us here at Buncee. Thank you.
Thank you.